my name is Irene, and in this video I would like to do a little demonstration of the process or workflow of using model in place component to create custom built-ins for an interior space. So let's get to it. Wow. And now basically you're just going to do that as many times as you have to for all of your different millwork. Now for some of these I'm going to speed up because there's going to be a lot of repetition, and then when something interesting comes up I'll slow down and I'll explain. Again, I'm just trying to show all the different ways that you can tackle this. So what I want to do next is I want to do this storage here in the back because I want to talk about combining model in place components with third-party loaded families. Because for example, for this guy here, I modeled the whole thing from scratch, but that isn't always going to be the case because that is not how it works in real life. In real life, you don't build every single element that exists for a project. Some things you're gonna buy. For example, like I was talking about the fact that I want to have a little iPad base station here. I'm not gonna model the iPad, I'm gonna buy the iPad, and thus I should source the iPad. So we're gonna have an entire video dedicated to basically furnishing or like staging or, populating the model with all of this additional geometry. But what I want to actually do is I want to do this other custom build, this one that I said that is gonna be storage and then shelving. I want to use this guy to demonstrate that you don't always have to model everything from scratch. Sometimes you can use geometry that already exists and then model the parts of it that would be custom. So that's what we're gonna do next. So setup is gonna be exactly the same. We are going to start by adjusting our section box so we can see the things that are relevant for this model in particular. Now, for this model in particular, I actually want to see the walls on the sides because the walls actually define where the cabinet begins and where it ends. So see, on this side here, I don't actually need to see the wall because there's that little gap. But in this case here, I did want to see that wall because the cabinet is going to be against the wall. And then the other thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to hide the one that I already modeled. Okay, so we're going to turn this off. Okay, so this is going to be my new working area. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start same way. We're going to go to components, model in place, and this is going to be also casework category, but the name is going to be, let's call it storage and display. Sure. Okay. And what I'm going to do this time is instead of getting straight into modeling, I'm actually going to go to the Revit library because the Revit library actually comes with cabinetry that is detailed enough. It may not be perfect, but it is detailed enough and it's parametric, so it's easy to adjust. So I actually like working with it in some cases. If I'm doing custom cabinetry, then no, but for this case, it should be good enough. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my library. I'm going to make sure that I am working in Imperial. So United States Imperial, and we are going to go to casework. There you go. See, so we have all of these different cabinets. In this case in particular, I want base cabinets. And let's see, for these kind of space, I think the most handy thing is going to be just doors. You can sometimes do drawers. Let's do a 50-50. Let's have some drawers and then some doors. So I can select all of them. Like I could pick more, but I think this is going to be good enough. And I'm going to load them. Oh, I forgot to pick something. I'm going to come back here and we are going to pick our filler. This is super important. Oh, this is a vanity cabinet, so it's probably lower. Yeah, you know what? Let me pick this guy just in case and load. Okay, so I have loaded them. That means that they are within the library of assets available for my model, but I still need to place them manually myself. So we are going to go CM for component, or you can also go to create and you're going to see that you have the option for component. So this is super, super important to understand. Sometimes people assume that because you're working with model in place component, you can only model, and that if you want to have additional things that are families, you would have to like exit the model in place component and then insert them and whatnot. That is not the case. You can insert families within a model in place component. The idea here is that we're going to make a blend. We're going to have some of it be model, some of it be third-party families that we download. So see, now I can start with the placement of my cabinets. The easiest way to find it is that you can start typing. So if I type base, see, it's going to give me all of my base elements. So I have the drawers, which are 18 inches, and I can go space, and that's going to rotate it. And see, the placement, if you're unsure, you can go to the top view or side view, but you're going to notice that like when you're working with cabinetry, you're always picking it from the back. And the reason for it is because the work plane when you're working with cabinetry is usually going to be the wall, because the cabinetry is against a wall. So that's fine. I'm going to come here and I'm just going to place it. We can play with the position and everything else later. And then I'm going to come back here and we're going to say, now I want to bring my other cabinets. I don't want them to be too big because I don't have that much space overall. So let's say that we're going to go with 24. Yeah, that's fine. Yes. Okay. Ooh, this needs to be adjusted. Let me see. Ooh, this is not the same type. Why are my pools here different than here? Let me see if I do the other cabinet. I have that one with the drawers. Where is the, I think it was vanity? Oh, it didn't load it. Weird. Everything that has been brought in here. Oh, it did not bring it. Let me check that out. If I go insert, load, I thought I had selected this there, and then component. There you go. Yeah, I like this one better. It's just that the height is wrong, but we can fix that. So I'm gonna get rid of this guy. And the reason that I am showing you how to work with these guys is because these guys have one advantage, and that's the fact that they're parametric and they already have a decent amount of detail. So sometimes it makes more sense to work with something like this than model the whole thing from scratch. Not always. Like if you would want these doors to have a very specific shape or a very specific detailing, then it's better if you model them, because I cannot have interactions. Like I cannot have a void take a bite out of this cabinet or something like that. So there are pros and cons to each approach. Now, what I want to do now is make sure that I set up all of my heights correctly. So if I go to my type properties, I should be able to see the height. Perfect. That is going to give me an allowance for my countertop. So I'm going to leave that. So I want to make sure that my other cabinet, this guy, has the same height. So I can go edit type and we're going to say you are supposed to be that 210. And let's see how that is going to adjust my drawers. Perfect. Beautiful. Awesome. The depth is 2, which is fine. If I go here to the top view, it is the same. And then finally, what I want to do is I would like consistency. So if this guy is 24, I would like this guy to also be 24. So because this guy is called here at 18, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to edit type and I'm going to duplicate it. Remember when we were duplicating our walls to give them custom thicknesses? You can actually do that also with families that you download. It's just that you're going to be restricted to working with whatever parameters they give you. So I'm going to duplicate this guy and call it 24 inches. Oh, already in use. Oh, do we already have a 24 option? We do, silly goose. There you go. I can just adjust the height here. Perfect. Awesome. Beautiful. Awesome. So now I can start just playing with the placement for this. So let's say that, for example, I want to have, do I have enough to have 2 drawers and 2 doors? Let's see. I'm going to go here, copy, and then I'm going to go here, copy. And basically what I want to do, I may not. And this is the problem with working with families. You may not have enough space for everything that you want to have. Let's see. And V, is it going to be? Ooh, it's exactly the size that it needs to be. Oh my God, that is great. I had forgotten my dimensions. Now, I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. This is not realistic. Real life is not this good. This never happens. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to fudge things a little bit so we can kind of like recreate a more realistic scenario. So let's say we're going to take these 2 guys and say that they're going to be, let's say that they're going to be 21 instead of being 24, just so we can create a gap so I can show you what happens when you have a gap. So I'm going to come here and I can take this guy, MV, and we're just going to, I can also move it manually. There you go. Let's put this guy here. And then let's put this guy here. Yes, this is more realistic. Like you have your wall and you have a little bit of a gap. I also want to have here a side panel because otherwise here, like usually these cabinets are made out of like a pretty cheap material. So this side here, you remember you have a window here. So you're going to be able to see that side, which is kind of gross. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this whole thing. MV, I'm going to move it, let's say 2 inches to the left. And basically I'm going to model a filler there. But not a filler, a side panel. But here we are going to have what is called a filler. So the idea of a filler is that it's not a cabinet, it's just a little piece that covers those gaps. So see, base cabinet filler. So the way that this guy works is in Revit in particular is that, oh, where is it? There you go. Space, there you go. No, wait, put it in the room. There you go. That's the way we want it. Let's go to our top view. so things are not confusing. And the way that this guy works is that I'm gonna put it, let's say here, and then I have to figure out how long I need it to be, because right now, see, it's giving me a width of 3 inches. I need it to be as wide as this gap is. So I'm gonna go DI to measure 4 inches. I need it to be 4 inches. So I'm gonna come here and say you should be 4 inches. And then see, the placement is a little bit odd. So I'm just gonna select it and slide it. There you go. And when we look back on our 3D view, see, so that creates a nice filler for my gap. And what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna do my countertop. So if we look at the reference image that I am working with, for my storage area behind the pay area, I'm using this image here. So basically this would be my storage, taller, so this is fine. And I want to have kind of like a thick counter. So what I'm going to do here, just to make things more interesting, what if my counter is the same material and it wraps here on the side to become my side panel, right? So that way it's like nice and thick and it wraps all around. So once again, how you model this is going to depend on like how you are constructing it. So if I want to model it from the bottom up, then I would have to model first the side and then the top. But if I'm smart and I want it to read like a single geometry, I can model it from the elevation side. So I can just come here to show my work plane, set, pick, and say that I want to work with this wall as my surface. And again, if it's too big, you can always cut it up a little bit, make it more manageable, right? Because basically what I want to do, I'm going to go to my right view here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do an extrusion. As simple as that. Even better, you know what? Just to show you like I'm going to make it as an extrusion. Now you'll see why. So I'm going to come here and I'm going to say, I want a rectangle that goes, where's my wall? Ooh, the door is kind of getting in my way. Let's say from here to here to there. There you go. I can see the wall now. And then let's say it's going to go up 2 inches. Oh God, that was 2 feet. Control Z, 2 inches. There you go. That's more realistic. And now let's say that I wanted to go down here. And now let's say I wanted to go, see, this is why I like to work with like a straight, Control Z. I like to work with a straight angle. That way it's a little bit easier to see what you're drawing. And then I can bring it down here and I can bring it down there. Beautiful. And the reason that I wanted to draw it instead of like I was thinking about using a sweep, I'll use a sweep for something else, is because what if I want this corner to be just a little bit rounded? Like clearly I have decided that I want everything to be slightly rounded. Sue me. So I can come here and now do this little guy here. See, if I would have been drawing it from the top, like how can I add this detail, right? So let's say that I want it to be an inch. Yeah. An inch, not too much, just like a nice little detail. And we're going to say yes. Beautiful. And now how deep do we want to be? Well, we want it to be at least as deep as our cabinet, right? So I could come here and say that I want it to be a depth so it aligns. Oh, why is it not? So it aligns with this guy here. But then that means that my doors are going to kind of like project beyond that, which looks kind of gross. So let's say that I want it aligned with my door and drawer fronts. That's going to give me a little bit of a lip that looks a little bit nicer. Gorgeous. But let's say that I want to be super mega extra because I always want to be super mega extra. That is kind of like my main feature. Like, let's say that I want it to be a profile like this. See? So like around it. And then I want it to round on the side panel as well for like a very nice futuristic detail. So in that case, you're going to have to take into consideration that filleting has to account, so like it meets here, right? So if this is 2 inches, then basically this guy needs to project a whole inch. So in that case, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to bring it back there so I can see this number. See, so it's telling me it's like 24 inches, 2 feet. So then all I need is those 24 inches plus an additional inch. So 25 inches projection. Good. And now check it out. We are going to do a void sweep. I really like void sweeps to add additional detail to my geometry. It's just very interesting to work with. And see, now I can come here and say, okay, we are going to pick the path this time. And we're going to say the path is going to be this line, this line, this line. Beautiful. Now, once that's done, we're going to say yes. And now we're going to set up our profile. So what is my profile going to be? Now, keep in mind, when you are drawing the void, I'm not going to draw the half circle because then that would eat that and I would keep the corners. Like I'm drawing the corners that are missing, right? So basically what I'm drawing is a line from here to here that is 1 inch and a line that goes down here and that goes there another inch. And then basically I have an arc that covers this distance. So I can go here, here. And now here you want to be really, really careful. You don't want the arc to actually touch, because if it touches the actual line, it's going to give you this like overlap clipping error. So what I like to do is I bring the circle here, and after I've done that, I actually project this guy a little bit further. So that way there's a gap, because again, otherwise it's going to give you an error. And once I've done that, I can say yes, I can say yes. I can't create sweep. Ooh, it might be because this turn is too sharp. Like I would need both of them to turn. That's disappointing. I think it would be very, very sexy if I could have, you know, the thing going both ways. How can I solve this? Yeah, it would be really, really nice. So I think I'm going to have to take a bite into this cabinet. So we may have a bigger, like a smaller filler here and then another filler here. Yes, let's do that. So this guy is going to be 2 inches. And this is how we work in real life. In real life, you have an idea, you try it out. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And then you have to try something else. We adapt all the time. All of you guys are going to move 2 inches this way. And then I'm just going to select you and copy you from this corner to this corner. And the reason that I'm doing that is so here I can create a radius as well, because like in reality you cannot take a bite out of a cabinet that has a drawer without having to make it into a very expensive custom piece. But if this is a filler, you can easily take a bite out of a filler. So I can edit this extrusion here, and basically what I want is I want the same arcing that we have here over here. So what I can do, I'm actually going to make this guy bigger so it's possible. So we're going to make this 2. Let's make it 3 inches, maybe. Yeah. And then what I can do is I can do an offset. So OF for offset. The offset is going to be 2 inches because that's the thickness of the counter. And we're going to, oh, no, wrong direction. Offset. No. Oh, is it still too little? Do I need more? Yeah, the fact that it's not letting me preview. 4 inches, maybe. And now OF. Why are you not? There you go. That's what I needed. I actually think I should be able to do it. Oh, whatever. I overcomplicated my life. There you go. That looks so much nicer. And now it's going to let me do the sweep, because the problem is that the sweep kind of needs to go like do the same movement. And basically what I had before with a straight corner on the inside and a curve corner on the other side, I was asking it to do this. So technically speaking, I could have done it with a revolve detail, but I think that overall this like curve here looks much nicer. So I'm going to keep that. Fine. Yes, and then yes. Hey, see? Now it didn't give me an error, and look how pretty that looks. Wow. So we have like a double curve. Now keep in mind, we might not be able to fill in this gap here because this is a family and this is geometry, so they don't always understand that they're supposed to interact with each other. So see, if I go here and I say cut, and see, I put it over my, no, sorry, let me take the geometry itself. Cut. There, the geometry. See how it doesn't even let me select family? So this is very, very important to understand. You cannot create cuts and joints between geometry and families. You can only make it between geometry, okay? So now we have our base cabinets for storage, and then we said that we also wanted to have some display above. So I kind of like this detail here where you have shelving, and then you have this like slatted detail element thing in the middle. So see if we can do something like that. Let's say that I want to have shelving only on one side, and then I'm going to have my slats here on the other side, so it's less symmetric, a little bit more dynamic. So again, you want to break things into parts. So you can see that I have a tube that is what holds my shelves in place. You can see that my shelves are curved. So again, there are different ways that I can do this. Usually when I have repeating elements, I like to try to make them all at once instead of making one and having to copy it. That's always annoying. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to keep on working on my work plane being the wall. But what I'm going to do this time is I'm actually, you know what, I'm going to finish my model for a second because this door trim keeps on getting in my way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to push my section box just a little bit. Oh, too far. Just enough that I no longer see the door trim because it's making it there. I just want to see my wall. It's going to make it easier to model. See? So now I can come here, double click. And now if I go here to my right view, see, before the door trim was getting in my way of actually being able to draw directly in the wall, not anymore. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw my shelves. So my shelves are going to be a simple extrusion, and it's just going to be a rectangle. I'm not going to go crazy. I always like draw it randomly first, and then I can adjust it to whatever size I want it to be. So for the length, let's say that it's going to be 4 feet. That's 4 feet. That's pretty long, actually. And then for the thickness, let's continue with this theme of 2 inches thickness. Sure. And then for the height, I would like it to be, let's do a model line here. How high do I want it to be? Like the first one, you usually want it to be pretty high. So let's say that the first one is going to be 16 inches. No, let's do all of them 16 inches. That's fine. So I'm going to select my shelf and I'm going to move it down here. There you go. Yes, that's fine. We're going to delete that. That was just a guide. Oops, because I'm seeing my reference plane. We're going to go CO. There you go. And I'm going to say I want 2, 3. Do I want 4? No, the 4 is going to be right against the ceiling. So 3, that's good enough. And for the depth, let's say that they're going to be 14 inches. Again, I have no idea what would I display in these shelves. So I'm just going to make them a decent thickness. Gorgeous, look at that. Now, if you look at the reference, you may notice that they have a nice little rounding effect. And check it out. To recreate that rounding effect, all I need to do is change my work plane. So let's say that I'm going to make it, escape. There you go. Set my work plane to be the top shelf. Doesn't really matter which one, top or bottom is going to be the same. And this time, I'm going to create a void extrusion that is going to be the shape of the bite that I want to take out. So if we said that it was 14 inches, like if I want the rounding to go all the way against the wall, which is kind of what we see here, then I need it to be 14 inches in both directions. So that's 14, then this is 14, and then I just need an arc that covers that distance. Like that. Oh, no, that's not grabbing onto the right place. I'm going to cheat a little bit. I'm going to draw a line. Yes, I can see a little bit better now. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to draw a line here because then I can make an arc by radius, which is much more easy. There you go. See, something like that. Beautiful. And then I can just delete this line. I don't need it anymore. And check it out. So that's my void. I'm going to say yes. And now, because all of them are single extrusion, I don't need to have this void cut through each of them, like cut. It's going to read all of them as a single geometry. So see, work smart, not hard. Beautiful. Now, the next thing that I want to do, I want to create my tube that is supporting them. I'm not going to get as detailed to add this little cap at the base, which is how they're actually held. We're going to keep it relatively simple. So instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to set my work plane to be the countertop surface because that's where my tube begins and then it goes up. So I'm going to go to my top view. I'm going to go to wireframe for my style so I can kind of see through a little bit. And the reason for that is because I want to basically kind of find where to put that tube. So we're going to come here, we're going to make an extrusion, and the extrusion is going to be a circle. So to begin with, I want the circle, I'm just going to do it here on the edge. Doesn't really matter. We're going to set it up later. 2 inches for the thickness of the tube. It's fine. And then we're going to move MV. So we said that the depth was 14. So let's do half, 7 inches. And then I'm going to move it again, 7 inches. And that way it's going to be somewhat centered. I could always change it later. But yeah, that kind of looks, do I want it a little? No, that's fine. We're going to come here. There you go. And I'm going to say yes. And then how far do I want it to go? Well, I can say that I want it to go all the way to the ceiling. That's an option. I actually wanted to stop this guy here. There, nice. And again, see how I have that clipping? That clipping is not good. I don't want to have it. So I'm going to come here and say join this guy and this guy. There you go. See, that looks really, really nice. And then I'm going to finish off with my slats. The slats, I could draw them on the countertop surface and extrude up, or I could draw them on the wall and extrude outwards. It doesn't really matter because they're just going to be rectangles. When things are just rectangles, it's much easier to work with them. So in this case here, I'm going to work it from the top view. So let's say I'm going to create an extrusion, and this is just going to be like a detail. Or you know what? Let's pick up on the detail that we had in the pay area with the timber, like semicircles. Yes, that's going to be a nice way to tie the whole thing together. So instead, I'm going to do these little circles that are going to be, I'm going to make them a little bit bigger. So 1 inch radius. There you go. So they're actually 2 inch in length. There you go. And then let's copy them. I could make it, oh no, I cannot make an array so this is one of the limitations of working with your own depth profile. You cannot use array within it, which is kind of annoying. And I want a little bit of distance between them. So if this is 2 inches, let's say that it's going to be 3 inches. So it's like 2, 1, 2, 1. And what I can do, this is a nice little trick. If you cannot do an array, but you want the same distance, after you've copied the first one, you can just go copy again. And this time, instead of picking up where the first one is, you just pick up where the distance is, basically like accounting for the distance. And then see, now whenever I do this, it's going to put them exactly the same distance. So this is kind of like the overworked array, so to speak. Can I see where it begins? Let's leave it. That's enough. Yeah, before the curve begins. Yes. And then we're going to say yes. And then let's say that for the height, these guys do go all the way to the ceiling. So I think my ceiling starts there. Yeah, just like a nice little detail. Maybe I move them a little bit to the side. Maybe I'll have some signage there. I don't know. We're having fun. Beautiful. And then say finish. So there you have it. Now, let me actually turn off my section box for a second. See? So now we have a piece of custom millwork that was made by combining families in modeled geometry. Not everything has to be modeled from scratch. Work smart, not hard. That being said, you have to understand that if you are working with third-party families that you're downloading, you may not necessarily like the appearance. Personally, I really hate these like protruding doors and drawers like fronts for the cabinetry of Revit. You could check Revit City, BIM Smith Market, BIM Object. I could come here. I think that the Blocks app that I work with actually has some cabinetry. I'm not entirely sure. Let's see, cabinetry. Yeah, it has like its own families, so I could work with that if I want to. Yeah, kitchen furniture units. And there you go, see? So they have all of these families that have much more variety in terms of like styles and appearance that you can play with. So again, at some point you kind of have to ask yourself, is it worth for me to model this thing from scratch? Or is it worth for me to maybe find something in some library that I can access and then maybe edit a little bit? So in this case, I just kept it with the Revit one so I could demonstrate. So let's say I'm going to start with the display that goes here, which is going to be very, very, very simple. It's just going to be a set of platforms. So you have a base with a reveal. So it's picking up on the detail for the pay station. And then we have some shelves that seem to be shifted, and that is going to pick from the storage behind it. Gorgeous. And then what we're going to do is now we're going to do our cuts, our voids, because remember, we wanted to have that like a rounding effect. See, we don't want it to be straight. We want them to have that rounded effect, kind of like this guy here. So it's going to be the same thing as before. I'm going to come here and set up my work plane to be the top shelf here. And then I'm going to come here and I can do both voids with a single extrusion. So let's say, actually, that means that I need to change my work plane to be this guy because see, these guys are different. And now I can come here and say, okay, you're going to be from here to here, 14, oh God, feet, 14 feet. I always make that mistake, 14 inches. And then one more line here so I can find where to put my arc. And my arc goes from here to there, and then delete this, and then yes. And then I'm going to cut these void so it goes under that guy. I don't need it to go all the way down because there's nothing else to cut. Hey, that's the first one. Now, the one that's going to be interesting is this one, because remember, all of these shelves are counted as one. So if I just make an extrusion that it goes through here, it's going to cut these guys as well. So here I have two options. Option one is that I can actually separate these shells into two sets of shells. So these and this will be one geometry, and then this and this and this will be another geometry. That way I can basically have one void for these guys and then have another void for these three. The other option would be that I have to create one void, another void, and another void. So I think that splitting these shells is actually easier. So the way that I can do this, I'm going to cheat a little bit and I'm going to go copy. And because they were on the wall, it's easy for me to copy them to the side. So I'm just going to go 10 feet to the right. And what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to go back into this original one and say, I don't want this one. I don't want this one. I don't want this one. Say yes. That's fine. Don't worry about it. Hey, that's better. And I can come here and do the opposite. I'm going to take these guys and say, I don't want this one. And I don't want this one. And I'm going to delete it. And I'm going to go say yes. And then I'm going to move it back the 10 feet. There you go. And now I can make a void that is just for this geometry. See? So I can come here. I'm going to go set this on the top. There you go. And I'm going to do exactly the same thing. In fact, because I'm kind of lazy, I'm going to double click on this guy and I'm going to copy this profile. I don't want to have to draw it again. And now I can come here and say, I'm going to create another extrusion, Control V. And there you go. Look at that. I have like, I can just copy it and place it in the new position. Oops, that's not the new position. And V, this corner on, nope, on that corner. There you go. Perfect. See, I'm going to say yes. And now check it out. I can drag this guy all the way to the bottom. And see, it's only cutting this guy, it's ignoring that guy. So you want to do a little bit of planning, a little bit of thinking about like who is going to interact with who when I make my geometry. Let's say that I also want to round this side here. If the straight looks a little bit messy, I don't have to make another void. I can just add another profile to this void extrusion. So I can come here, select this guy, and I'm gonna say I'm going to mirror it. Let's find the midpoint here. Hey, perfect. I say yes. And once again, this void should ignore this shell. Let's see. Hey, beautiful. Look at that. So pretty. And we're going to finish this off by setting up my work plane to be the base here so we can build like the same tubes like we have them on the pay area. So I'm going to come here. Let's go to the top view so it's a little bit easier. And I'm going to switch to the wireframe just so I can see where, there you go. See, because I want it to be within this guy and within this guy. So we're going to make our extrusion. It's going to be a little circle. I want it to start here. And we said that it was 1 inch radius for 2 inches diameter. We're going to move it. How much do we want to move it? Like there? Yeah, 7 because it's 14. So it's in the middle. And then I'm just going to copy it from this endpoint to this endpoint. And then we're going to say yes. And then we can just switch back to our hidden line. And we are going to extend this guy to there. And once again, see how there is that like clipping? It's not generating the line. So if you want them to acknowledge each other, you have to go to join. So this guy and this guy. And see how now it's recognizing those, and then this guy and that guy. Hey, beautiful. See, once you pick up the pace and you understand what you want to do, this is going to go much, much faster. See, that guy is a dunzo. And the reason that I wanted to do the clothing display is because so far everything that I have modeled has been from the wall or from the floor. But I want to show you that you can actually also model from the ceiling. It's the ceiling exists. You do not need to just ignore it. So what I want to do here, I want to get quite close. Let's put it there. Yes. And then let's bring it in quite a lot. Yes. Let's do that. And let's do this. And so I want to do a couple of things. So number one, I want to show you the fact that you can model things that come from the ceiling. The reference image that I have for my clothing display thing is going to be this guy here. This guy is mounted on the wall. I'm going to make it drop from the ceiling. So it's basically a tube ceiling, goes down, goes across, goes up. But I also want to show you that like you can have an interaction with walls, right? We talked about this. Sometimes you will have model in place components that are interacting with the architectural elements of your model. So let's say that, for example, for this wall here, I want to carve a little bit. Now, this is not going to be entirely realistic. Let me be fair. This wall here is very thin. It's 5 inches. It's nothing. Normally, what you would need to do is you would need to make this wall here thicker. So this wall here, instead of being 5 inches, at the very least, this part here should be, I think, at least 8 inches, 10 inches, something like that. But I'm going to do just a little protrusion here just to show you how these kind of interactions will look, okay? So, and then we're also going to interact with the ceiling, for which I need to turn on my ceiling. So I'm going to bring my ceiling here, and I am going to unhide the element, and then I'm going to turn off my section box. There you go, see? So we have ceiling, we have wall, we have floor. Those are the things that I need. Okay, so what I want to show here is how can we take a bite out of the wall? It's basically going to be the same as long as so you cannot take bites out of families, as in like third-party families that you insert. Walls, floors, ceilings, roofs are family systems. You can take bites out of them. So check it out. I can go here to create. I'm going to set my work plane to be this wall. And then I am going to create a void extrusion. And now I'm going to align here with this view and start with a rectangle. Let's say I'm going to make it like this. I basically want it to be aligned with like my door frame and whatnot. Now, I don't want it to be right on the edge because there you have the wall. I think it's going to look kind of weird. So instead, I'm going to give it a little bit of an offset. So if I do this, see, I want to have this like dimension here. And then these can be something like maybe 6 inches. Yeah, that's decent. Same thing here. I can do this for my temporary dimensions. 6 inches. There you go. That looks much nicer. And then I can do like an arc. And what I want to do here is I'm going to do it actually like this. I'm going to pick this. I'm going to put it here, here, there. And then what I can do is I can pick my arc and then MV, move it down. Bam. Oh, okay. It's supposed to be 2. So I guess that we're going to do a fillet. I think I should have deleted that line. Leaving it caused like a weird effect. That's fine. Okay, great. Yes. And now what we're going to do is we're going to say yes now. First thing first, this is going too deep. This is 6 inches, and if you remember, my entire wall is 5 inches. So this guy's clipping through. Not very good. So first thing first, I want this guy to just go a little bit. This is like an aesthetic detail. This is not functional. We're not going to have that anything there. So let's say that I just want it to go 2 inches in. Now, you can see that right now it is in orange. And that is because Revit doesn't understand what do I want to cut. Because by default, it is only going to consider geometry modeled within the model in place component that is touching. So it's not really touching anything. But if I wanted to interact with my wall, all I need to do is say, hey, I want this wall to be cut by this void. And there you have it. See? Immediately it understands what I want it to do. Super easy. It's just a matter of understanding what is it that you want it to do. And then finally, the other thing that I wanted to show you is that your working plane doesn't always have to be floor or wall. It can be ceiling, or you can do a reference plane. So here I'm actually going to do both. So first of all, I want to set a reference plane that is going to be kind of like a distance where my hanger is going to be. So I'm going to go to my top view here, and I'm going to go to wireframe so I can see this through. And I'm going to create a reference plane. Oh, I think I need to be in a floor plan. Otherwise, it only lets me do a reference line. I need to create a reference plane. So I'm going to go to my floor plan. There you go. See, here I can make a reference plane. Good. Oof. That got weird for a second. And let's say that we want it to be halfway there. How much is this? 1 feet. Let's say we're going to give this guy 14 inches just to be on the safe side. And I'm going to name this reference plane clothing rack. And you'll see why. So first thing first, what I want to do is I'm going to go back here to my floor plan view, close that. I'm going to come back here to my floor plan view, switch back to hidden line. And what I want to do is I'm going to set up my work plane to be the ceiling. So I'm going to come here and I'm going to go set, pick up a plane and my ceiling. Beautiful. Now what I can do is I can go to my top. Let's go back to my wireframe. And basically what I want to do is if you look, here on the floor, the tube has a little like plate at the end. So that's kind of what I want to recreate just to give it a little bit more zhuzh. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come here to create, and I'm going to create an extrusion that is going to be that disc. I'm going to start here on this corner and then we'll adjust it depending on where we want it to be. The most important thing for me is that this disc has to be where my reference plane was, which was 14 inches from the wall. So if you want, you can use a model line just to help you kind of like figure out where that, oh, right, we're on the profile. So I'm going to draw a line here. That is going to be, we said 14 from the wall. Perfect. And I can come here and just say, okay, my circle is going to be, let's say here. And if the tube, we have been making it 1 radius, 2 diameter, let's say we're going to give it an additional inch. So we're going to make it 2. Yes. And then I'm just going to copy it to the other side. Let's say we're going to put it here. I don't like how it aligns just with that wall. I want it to be within these elements. So it's like you have the base, you have this recess, and then you have your clothing rack, even if it ends up being very small. So we're going to go MV, and I'm going to move this guy 1 feet should be enough. Yes. And then MV, 1 feet. There you go. When you want to move with precision, MV is the easiest way to do it. There. Okay. So now if I look, let's go here and then hidden line. If I look at my ceiling, this is really, really thick. So I can come here and say, well, this was supposed to be maybe 1 inch, half an inch. There you go. That's looking really, really nice. And now this is why I drew my reference line. Check it out. Now I can come here and say, okay, I want to create, but I'm going to set up my work plane. Instead of picking a plane, I'm going to set up a work plane, the one that I drew, because now I can come here and say that I want it to be that clothing rack one that I created. And see how this gets like perfectly aligned with where my little circles are? So that means that I'm not drawing against the wall, I'm drawing offset at the distance. So those are the instances where you can draw your own reference plane, where the thing that you need to draw is not necessarily touching a surface that you can just pick. So see, now I can come here and say, okay, right. And let's say we're going to make this as a sweep from this guy down to this guy. So I can come here and say, okay, we're going to create a sweep. I'm going to draw the path. The path is going to be sketched, and the path is going to go from this guy. Let's say we want it to go, I'm going to have to measure that, so it doesn't matter. To here, to here. I want to move this so it goes right in the center. Perfect. And then how much is this height? This height should be from the floor. Usually you have your rack, if you're 5 feet high, let's put it 5 feet. I think that should be comfortable. Yes. And then I'm going to round my corners again because you can see that that's the theme in this project. And then let's say 6 inches should be enough. Oops, 6 inches again. I do want to have some straight area here. That's where the clothes are going to be hanging. And now that I have that, I can now draw my profile. So I'm going to say yes. And my profile is just going to be a circle, a 1 inch radius circle. And when I say yes, and I say yes, ooh, that's extremely thick. I don't like that. Double click. And we're gonna go straight to the profile. So double click on the profile and we're gonna make it at least half that size, dog. That's too thick. There you go. That should be a little bit better. Yes, that looks much more manageable. Beautiful. Look how nice that looks. Great. Let's turn that off and let's finish off. That is the last one for my display area. The last thing that we are going to be modeling here is going to be the, what's the word? The vanity area. So if you remember, we have a vanity area here. I also have an inspiration image for this one. It's going to be quite interesting. It's this image here. And the reason that I like this one is because we kind of have the fluting repeating from the pay area. And then we have these kind of like profile detail where the light is coming from and then mirror detail. I think it's going to be quite interesting to model. So let's do this guy. And again, the other reason that I like this is because you once again have this interesting combination of things that you model plus things that you download. So for example, there's no reason for me to model the faucets. I can just download them from a third-party provider. Now, this is where things are interesting. I can come here and I don't think, I think for whatever reason, it doesn't let me access my blocks from the model in place component. If I would already have the faucet, it can let me pick it up here, but because it's using that specific extension, it's not letting me access it. So that's fine. I can temporarily finish my model here. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go here to my blocks RVT and we're going to search for a faucet. So I'm going to come here and say faucet. Oh, no, faucet. And let's see. No, I want, yes. Let's go with this one. Okay, so I'm going to pick it. It's going to load it. And what I'm going to do here is I'm not going to place it because I just need it to be loaded. Again, the reason for this, like, this is not right or wrong. For a lot of these things, you can choose the way that you want to tackle it. But to me, in my mind, the faucet is a part of the vanity. So to me, it doesn't make any sense to have the vanity itself be one thing and then have these faucet outside of that model in place component. So yes, if you want to, you could just place it here and that's it, and that's fine. But actually what I want to do here is I want to place it within the model in place component. So once I have loaded it, I can come here into my model in place component. And now I can go here to components and see, now it's going to let me place that faucet, but now it's going to be within the model in place. Let's take a quick look at everything that we've done. We've actually done a lot of stuff in this video. And as you can see, what I really like about this is that, see, this is one guy. So if I change my mind and I no longer want to have it here and I want to have it over there, I can just pick it up and move it and I can just like rotate it or whatever. I am not, because of the way that it has been modeled. This is where you run into limitations on the things that you create. This guy seems to be fine. Yeah. But this is why I like to break it into parts, because that way, if I need to shift things around, it's not a whole entire entity. Each of these guys is its own individual thing, okay? But with that, we have reached the end of this video. This one was much longer than the previous videos that I've done, but hopefully you will see in this video something that reflects the kind of modeling that you need to do for your projects. Again, I wanted to do a lot of variety just so there is something for everyone that's looking this video. You can use the timestamps below to go to exactly whatever it is that you want to model, but the video overall shows like the great expanse of like how much level of detail you can put to stuff when you are modeling with Revit model in place components. If you have any questions, by all means, feel free to add them in the comments. If you like the video, you can like, you could also subscribe. I've noticed that there's a lot of viewers that just come and view something and they don't subscribe. It would be nice if you did. But otherwise, thank you very much for joining in. Thank you very much for sticking through, and I will see you in the next one. Have a good one. Bye.